The Italian Army is the land defense force of the Italian Armed Forces of the Italian Republic. The Army's history dates back to the unification of Italy in the 1850s and 1860s. The Army fought in colonial engagements in China, Libya, northern Italy against the Austro-Hungarian Empire during World War I, Abyssinia before World War II, and in World War II in Albania, Greece, North Africa, Russia and Italy itself. During the Cold War, the Army prepared itself to defend against a Warsaw Pact invasion from the east. Since the end of the Cold War, the Army has seen extensive peacekeeping service and combat in Afghanistan and Iraq. Its best-known combat vehicles are the Dardo infantry fighting vehicle, the Centauro tank destroyer and the Ariete tank, and among its aircraft the Mangusta attack helicopter, recently deployed in UN missions. The headquarters of the Army General Staff are located in Rome, opposite the Presidential Palace. The Army is an all-volunteer force of active duty personnel, numbering 102,995 personnel in 2014 and therefore being the second largest army of the European Union and the fourth among NATO nations. History. The Italian Army originated as the Royal Army, which dates from the proclamation of the Kingdom of Italy following the seizure of the Papal States, and the unification of Italy, in 1861, under the leadership of Giuseppe Garibaldi. Victor Emmanuel II of the House of Savoy was invited to take the throne of the newly independent kingdom. Italian expeditions were dispatched to China during the Boxer Rebellion of 1900 and to Libya during the Italo-Turkish War of 1911–1912. World War I. The Italian Royal Army's first real taste of modern warfare was during World War I. Most of the actions were fought in northern Italy and the Royal Army suffered many casualties. This included over 700,000 dead. In particular, the frequency of the offensives in which Italian soldiers participated between May 1915 and August 1917, one every 3 months, was higher than demanded by the armies on the Western Front. Italian discipline was also harsher, with punishments for infractions of duty of a severity not known in the German, French, and British armies. During the interwar years, the Royal Army participated in the Italian invasion of Ethiopia, provided men and materials during the Spanish Civil War to fight in the Corps of Volunteer Troops, and launched the Italian invasion of Albania. World War II. On paper, the Royal Army was one of the largest ground forces in World War II, though in reality it could not field the numbers claimed, and it was one of the pioneers in the use of paratroopers. Due to their generally smaller size, many Italian divisions were reinforced by an assault group of 2 battalions of black shirts. Reports of Italian military prowess in the Second World War were almost always dismissive. This perception was the result of disastrous Italian offensives against Egypt and the performance of the army in the Greco-Italian War. Both campaigns were ill-prepared and executed inadequately. The Italian 10th Army initially advanced into Egypt but surrendered after being pushed back into central Libya and almost all destroyed by force, 1/5 its size in the British 3-month campaign of Operation Compass. Incompetent military leadership was aggravated by the Italian military's equipment, which predominantly dated back to the First World War and was not up to the standard of either the Allied or the German armies. Italian medium M11, M13, M14 and M15 tanks were at a marked disadvantage against the comparatively heavily armed American Sherman tanks. For example, more crucially, Italy lacked suitable quantities of equipment of all kinds, and the Italian High Command did not take necessary steps to plan for possible setbacks on the battlefield, or for proper logistical support to its field armies. There were too few anti-aircraft weapons, obsolete anti-tank guns, and too few trucks. The Italian Expeditionary Corps in Russia fought under General Giovanni Messa, who acknowledged the limitations of his corps in material and equipment and thus was relieved of his command on November 1, 1942. When the Soviet offensive Operation Saturn began on December 12, 1942, the Italian 8th Army was quickly crushed. Only about a third of its troops managed to escape the Soviet cauldron, most notably from the three Alpini divisions Tridentina, Giulia and Cunance, which fought stubbornly and to almost the total annihilation to escape the Soviet encirclement. In North Africa, the Italian 132 Armored Division Ariete and the 185 Airborne Division Folgore fought to total annihilation at the Second Battle of El Alamein. Although the battle was lost, the determined resistance of the Italian soldiers at the Battle of Keren in East Africa is still commemorated today by the Italian military. After the Axis defeat in Tunisia, the morale of the Italian troops dropped, and when the Allies landed in Sicily on July 10, 1943, most Italian coastal divisions simply dissolved. The sagging morale led to the overthrow of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini by King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy 15 days later. In September 1943, Italy made an armistice with the Allies and split into the Italian Social Republic, effectively a puppet state of Germany in the north and that of the Badoglio government in the south. The Italian co-belligerent army was the army of the Italian Royalist forces fighting on the side of the Allies in southern Italy after the Allied armistice with Italy in September 1943. The Italian soldiers fighting in this army no longer fought for Benito Mussolini, as their allegiance was to King Victor Emmanuel and to Marshal of Italy Pietro Badoglio, the men who ousted Mussolini. Cold War. The kingdom was replaced by a republic in 1946 and the Royal Army changed its name to become the Italian Army. Initially 5 infantry divisions were active, including the newly renamed Infantry Division Friuli. Following the creation of NATO, the Italian army was integrated into NATO's allied forces southern Europe and prepared for a feared invasion from the east, possibly via Yugoslavia. Allied land forces southern Europe was activated on the 10th of July 1951 to defend northeastern Italy. The command was headquartered at Verona and placed under Lieutenant General Maurizio Lazzaro de Castiglione. Some 3 infantry divisions and 3 brigades were the only forces initially available to this command to defend northeastern Italy. The divisions in question were the Mantova Infantry Division in Udine, the Folgore Motorized Infantry Division in Treviso, the Trieste Motorized Infantry Division in Bologna. 2 of the 3 brigades were Alpini Mountain Infantry Brigades, the Giulia Alpine Brigade in Cividale del Friuli and Tridentina Alpine Brigade in Brixen, while the 3rd Brigade was the Ariete Armored Brigade in Pordenone. Exercise Italic Weld, a combined air-naval ground exercise in northern Italy involving the United States, Italy, Turkey, and Greece, appears to have been one of the first exercises in which the new Italian army orientation was tested. Later the Italian army was divided into the 3rd Army Corps, 4th Alpine Army Corps, and 5th Army Corps, plus other units. The most significant reorganization of the Italian army took place in 1975, when the regimental level was abolished and the battalions came under direct command of newly formed brigades. This reorganization came to an end in 1986 when the remaining 4 divisional headquarters were dissolved and all brigades in northern Italy came under direct command of the Army's 3 corps there, while the brigades in central and southern Italy came under operational control of the local administrative military regions. Post-Cold War. At the end of the Cold War in 1989, the Italian army consisted of 26 combat brigades, 4 armored brigades, 10 mechanized infantry brigades, 5 motorized infantry brigades, 5 alpine brigades, 1 rocket artillery brigade and 1 airborne brigade. The units were placed as follows under the 3 army corpses: 3rd Army Corps, Armored Brigade Centauro, Mechanized Brigade Goitu, Mechanized Brigade Legnano, Mechanized Brigade Brescia, Mechanized Brigade Trieste, Motorized Brigade Cremona, 4th Alpine Army Corps, Alpine Brigade Cador, Alpine Brigade Giulia, Alpine Brigade Orobica, Alpine Brigade Torinense, Alpine Brigade Tridentina, 5th Army Corps, Armored Brigade Ariete, Armored Brigade Mameli, Armored Brigade Pozzuolo del Friuli, Mechanized Brigade Vittorio Veneto, Mechanized Brigade Garibaldi, Mechanized Brigade Gorizia, Mechanized Brigade Mantova, 3rd Missile Brigade Aquileia. The brigades under operational control of the military regions were 7 Territorial Military Command Parachute Brigade Folgore, Motorized Brigade Friuli, 8 Territorial Military Command Motorized Brigade Acqui, Mechanized Brigade Granatieri di Sardegna, Ex-Territorial Military Command Mechanized Brigade Pinerolo, G Territorial Military Command Motorized Brigade Aosta, Autonomous Military Command Sardinia, Motorized Brigade Sassari. The armored brigades consisted of 1 Commander AMP Signals Battalion, 2 or 3 tank battalions with Leopard 1A2 tanks, 1 Mechanized Infantry Battalion with M113 APCs, 1 self-propelled Field Artillery Group with M109 howitzers, 1 Logistic Battalion, an anti-tank company and an engineer company. The mechanized brigades consisted of 1 Commander AMP Signals Battalion, 1 Tank Battalion, 3 Mechanized Infantry Battalions, 1 Self-Propelled Field Artillery Battalion with M109 howitzers, 1 Logistic Battalion, an anti-tank company and an engineer company. However, the Pinerolo mechanized brigades fielded a field artillery group with FH-70 howitzers. Additionally, the Gorizia and Mantova mechanized brigades fielded 2 position infantry battalions each, which were tasked with manning fortifications and bunkers along the Yugoslav-Italian border. The motorized brigades consisted of 1 Commander AMP Signals Battalion, 1 Armored Battalion, 3 motorized infantry battalions, 1 Field Artillery Group, 1 Logistic Battalion, an anti-tank company and an engineer company. However, the Sassari Brigade did not contain a field artillery battalion. The Folgore Parachute Brigade did field 1 Commander AMP Signals Battalion, 1 Parachute Assault Battalion, 3 Parachute Infantry Battalions, 1 Airborne Field Artillery Group with Mod 56 howitzers, 1 Logistic Battalion, 1 Army Aviation Helicopter Battalion and an engineer company. 3 of the 5 Alpine Brigades consisted of 1 Commander AMP Signals Battalion, 2 Alpini Battalions, 1 Alpini Training Battalion, 2 Mountain Artillery Groups, 1 Logistic Battalion, an anti-tank company and an engineer company, while the Tridentina Brigade fielded an Alpini d'Arresto Battalion instead of the Alpini Training Battalion. The exception was the Giulia Alpine Brigade, which consisted of 1 Commander AMP Signals Battalion, 4 Alpini Battalions, 1 Alpini d'Arresto Battalion, 1 Alpini Training Battalion, 3 Mountain Artillery Battalions, 1 Logistic Battalion, an anti-tank company and an engineer company, making the Giulia the largest brigade of the Italian army. The d'Arresto Alpini and infantry units were designated to hold specific fortified locations directly at the border to slow down an attacking enemy. They were not a maneuver element but attached for training and logistic purposes to brigades stationed closest to the border. The Missile Brigade Aquileia fielded a mix of heavy artillery and missile units, both capable of firing tactical nuclear weapons. The main missile weapon of the brigade was the MGM-52 Lance missile unit. Summary: in total, the Italian army fielded at the end of the Cold War. Additionally, the army fielded 23 anti-tank companies, one in each combat brigade with the exception of the Folgore and Sassari brigades. 1991 reform. In 1991 the army began the post-Cold War drawdown of its forces with the disbandment of 7 brigades and a large number of smaller units. The brigades disbanded in 1991 were the Aquileia, Brescia, Goitus, Mameli, Orobica, Trieste and Vittorio Veneto. The units subordinated to these brigades were mostly disbanded, while the Garibaldi Brigade command was transferred with one of its battalions to Campania. 1997 reform. With the relaxing military situation, the Italian army kept drawing down forces and disbanding smaller military units, which necessitated a major reorganization by 1997 to merge the remaining battalions into coherent units and to disband now superfluous brigade commands. Thus, further 6 brigades were disbanded during the latter half of 1996 and 1997: Acqui, Cadore, Cremona, Gorizia, Legnano and Mantova. In addition, the remaining units were moved to new bases, changed composition, designation and tasks. The 3 army corpses were renamed and the functions expanded. The 3rd Army Corps became the Projection Forces Command, commanding the rapid reaction forces of the army. The 4th Alpine Army Corps became the Alpine Troops Command, focusing on peacekeeping operations, and the 5th Army Corps became the 1st Defense Forces Command, tasked with defending northern Italy. On January 1, 1998, the 2nd Defense Forces Command was activated in Naples and tasked with defending south and central Italy. During the Cold War, the Italian army units were to be commanded during war by NATO's LANDSOUTH command in Verona on October 1, 1997. Out of elements of the aforementioned NATO command, the new Operational Terrestrial Forces Command was activated. The COMFOTER took command of all the combat support, combat service support and CIS units of the Italian army. Along with the COMFOTER in Verona, a support command was raised in Treviso, which gained operational control of all the remaining combat support, combat service support and CIS units of the army. The COMSUP controlled 3 division-sized formation and 3 brigade-sized formations. Thus, after the 1997 reform, the structure of the Italian army was as follows: COMFOTER, COMFOP, Parachute Infantry Brigade Folgore, Mechanized Infantry Brigade Friuli Bersaglieri Brigade Garibaldi, COMALP, Alpine Brigade Giulia, Alpine Brigade Torinense, Alpine Brigade Tridentina, COMFOD-1, Armored Brigade Ariete, Mechanized Infantry Brigade Centauro, Cavalry Brigade Pozzuolo del Friuli, COMFOD-2, Mechanized Infantry Brigade Aosta, Mechanized Infantry Brigade Granatieri di Sardegna, Armored Brigade Pinello, Mechanized Infantry Brigade Sassari, COMSUP, Army Aviation Command, Air Defense Artillery Command, C4IEW Command, Field Artillery Brigade, Engineer Brigade, Logistics Support Command. 2002 reform. Between 1997 and 2002 the Army continued to tweak the new structure, and with the abolition of obligatory military service a further 2 brigades were disbanded in 2002. On December 1, 2000, the COMFOP became the NATO Rapid Deployable Corps Italy and passed its subordinate units to the COMFOD-1 and COMFOD-2 commands. The Friuli Brigade changed composition and became an airmobile brigade with Army aviation, cavalry and infantry units. The COMSUP had already been reorganized and streamlined in 2000. After 2002, the structure of the Italian army was as follows: COMFOTER NRDCIT, NRDCIT Signal Brigade, COMALP Alpine Brigade, Giulia Alpine Brigade, Torinense, COMFOD-1 Armored Brigade, Ariete Parachute Infantry Brigade, Folgore Airmobile Brigade, Friuli Cavalry Brigade, Pozzuolo del Friuli, COMFOD-2 Mechanized Infantry Brigade, Aosta Bersaglieri Brigade, Garibaldi Mechanized Infantry Brigade, Granatieri di Sardegna Armored Brigade, Pinello Mechanized Infantry Brigade, Sassari C4IEW Command, COMSUP Air Defense Brigade, Air Cavalry Command, Field Artillery Brigade, Engineer Brigade, Logistic Projection Brigade. 2011 reform. During 2011, some small changes regarding the support units of the Army were enacted. The COMSUP took command of the Army's schools and merged them where possible with the support brigades. Minor units were moved south and to the island to reduce the Army's footprint in the wealthier north of Italy. At the same time, the designation of the Pinerolo Brigade was changed back to Mechanized Infantry Brigade. Afterwards, the COMSUP consisted, besides 4 Army schools, of the following commands: Air Defense Command, Artillery Command, Engineer Command, Logistic Projection Command. 2013 reform. In 2013, the Army began a major reform. The 3 corps-level commands COMFOD-1, COMFOD-2 and COMALP were disbanded and the Mantova Division Command moved from Vittorio Veneto to Florence, where it was renamed as Friuli Division Command, taking the name and traditions of the Friuli Air Assault Brigade. Together with the other 2 division commands, Acqui and Tridentina, it took command of the operational brigades of the Italian Army. At the same time, 2 brigades, Pozzuolo del Friuli Cavalry Brigade and Granatieri di Sardegna Mechanized Brigade, were disbanded, leaving the Army with 9 operational combat brigades. The Pozzuolo del Friuli name and traditions were given to the Friuli Air Assault Brigade in January 2014. Also in 2015, the Artillery Command and Engineer Command merged to create the Operational Support Command, while the Logistic Projection Command was disbanded and its units transferred to the brigades. As part of the reform, the Army created the new Army Special Forces Command in Pisa, which took command of all special operations forces of the Army. Furthermore, the Operational Terrestrial Forces Command in Verona will disband by 2016 and the 3 divisions come under the newly raised Army Operational Center in Rome. At the end of the reform, the Army will consist of 2 ex-heavy brigades armed with Centauro tank destroyers, Ariete tanks, Dardo infantry fighting vehicles and PZH-2000 self-propelled artillery, 2 ex-medium brigades armed with Centauro tank destroyers and Freccia infantry fighting vehicles, 4 ex-light brigades armed with Centauro tank destroyers, Puma armored personnel carriers and FH-70 towed artillery, 1 ex-air assault brigade with Centauros, Pumas, A129 Mangusta attack and NH-90 transport helicopters and FH-70 towed artillery. Each maneuver brigade, with the exception of the Pozzuolo del Friuli and Sassari brigades, will field the following units after the reform: 1 Combat Service Support Battalion, Battalion with the Brigade Staff, 1 Cavalry Reconnaissance Regiment, 3 Combat Maneuver Regiments, 1 Artillery Regiment, 1 Engineer Regiment, 1 Logistic Regiment. The Pozzuolo del Friuli Brigade will field a Cavalry Reconnaissance Regiment, an Air Assault Infantry Regiment, an Amphibious Assault Infantry Regiment, an Army Aviation Reconnaissance Helicopter Regiment, an Attack Helicopter Regiment, a Field Artillery Regiment, an Engineer Regiment, a Logistic Regiment, as well as the Standard Combat Service Support Battalion with the Brigade Staff. The Sassari Brigade will not field a Cavalry Reconnaissance Regiment and an Artillery Regiment, unless funds can be found to raise these units on the island of Sardinia. All Army schools, training regiments and training centers will be combined into the newly raised Army formation, specialization and doctrine command in Rome. Operations. The Italian army has participated in operations to aid populations hit by natural disasters. It has, moreover, supplied a remarkable contribution to the forces of police for the control of the territory of the province of Bolzano, in Sardinia, in Sicily and in Calabria. Currently, it protects sensitive objects and places throughout the national territory since the September 11 attacks in the United States. The Army is also engaged in missions abroad under the aegis of the UN, the NATO, and of multinational forces, such as Beirut in Lebanon, Namibia, Albania, Kurdistan, Somalia, Mozambique, Bosnia, East Timor and Kosovo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Darfur, Afghanistan, Iraq and Lebanon again. The Carabinieri, once the senior corps of the army, is now an autonomous armed force. The Carabinieri provide military police services to all the Italian armed force. Command structure. The armed forces of Italy are under the command of the Italian Supreme Defense Council, presided over by the President of the Italian Republic. Operational forces. COMFOTER has direct command of a NATO Rapid Reaction Corps Command, the NATO Rapid Deployable Italian Corps Support Commands, including the Army Aviation, the Army Communication and Transmission Command, and of 3 divisions, which between them command the actual 9 Italian combat brigades. The attached units are in detail. Combat Brigade Support Command's effective operational capability. All brigades may be deployed outside Italy and are often involved in peacekeeping operations on foreign soil. The brigades are combat brigades, numbering between 3–5,000 troops each. Units are designated as regiments, but field men and equipment comparable to large battalions and consist of a large command, logistics, and support company plus a combat battalion, which, in the case of light infantry units, consists of 3 infantry companies, 1 mortar company with 120 mm mortars, 1 anti-tank company with Spike anti-tank guided missile systems. In the mechanized infantry units, the mortar and anti-tank companies are merged into a maneuver support company, while the Parasadu-T regiments field a maneuver and Parasadu-T special forces operations support company. Equipment.